Hello TubeNet, this is the Elephant. I am selling my Cerveny Piggy. I'm selling it for $2,900 flat. You have to meet me somewhere to pick it up. I'm not willing to ship it because anything shipped to or from Mississippi is guaranteed going to receive a lot of damage. The Tuba was made in the late 60s or early 70s. I can't confirm that, but the engraving and the fact that it has CSSR and Czechoslovakia in one word on the mouthpipe receiver tells me that it's from that era. It has the smaller bell, the shorter body wrap, so it's a little bit wider. It has 4 rotary valves, and it is in C. The pedal register is very good, and I can play everything on it. The only thing I have to do is D flat 2 and 3. Everything else plays as a fingered note normally. The lacquer is original, and there has been some horrible dent work done to this thing over the years. That's a good example of it. The metal is actually pretty smooth. It's the lacquer. It's very chewed up. I normally do not polish my horns. I decided to tart this up a little bit so that it would film better. So I ran a very quick bit of polish on a paper towel over it to get rid of the patina. The patina on Cerveny brass turns dark orange red, not brown, and it looks kind of weird. However, I like natural brass horns, and I was going to strip this one once I finished doing to it what I wanted to do. And as it ends up, it's just too small for what I need in the orchestra. It's just too little to play with a big section of basses and stuff like that. What I've done to it, number one, I detest horizontal tuning slide vertical tuning slide water key locations, because they require that you tip the horn flat to empty it. I like to empty the horn when I'm playing. So I relocated this and used an Amato water key that I drilled out a little bit. It does not leak. It works very well. Now you can see that the angle is pretty much the angle with which you would hold it when you're playing. You just need to lean it a little bit, and you can blow it out while you're playing. That's very nice. I made custom ball and socket linkages. Aren't they lovely? Yes, they are. They're super sexy. And I completely remade the stop arm nuts, which were a very big problem. Also, I used Miraphone 186 stop arm plates. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. That one was stripped. The other 3 are lacquered. I reused the ratty Cerveny screws. They're very old. I think you can replace them pretty easily. I just don't like to throw out stuff if it still works. The Miraphone stop arm plates allow for a much better cork size and position that actually hits the pin on the stop arm. The Cerveny ones did not. They worked very poorly, and they split the cork a lot of times. I'm trying to brace this here so you can see. It hits right smack in the middle of the cork, and I extended the pins so that they go all the way down to the top of the rotor. 1 scratched the rotor, and 3 were about half as long as they should be. And when you let them sit there for years at a time, with it only being half the right length, the cork that it's resting against in the up position splits in the middle. So you have to prematurely replace corks on this horn. Not anymore. I fixed all that. Everything works nice. The corks don't split. And they are now easier to set up because they have better stop arm plates, because I used the Miraphone ones. Rather than drill out the horn, which would have messed it up, I ovalized the holes on the Miraphone plates so that they would fit the Cerveny screw centers, which were a little bit different than the Miraphone ones. I think they were a little closer. Let me pull this over here. The first slide, as you can see by the way the horn is set up, you have to be able to move your first slide some on pretty much any tuba. And I did not like having to reach across this very tall top bow, which was uncomfortable. Instead, I reach through. I rest my hand right here, and I just grab it there. But that meant I couldn't move the slide very well. You can't move it very far like that. And the slide has to be really smooth moving and loose in order to be able to do it with your fingertips if you're in a position like that. Instead, what I ended up doing, my final solution was to wrap my hands around this tube and use my middle finger in that saddle. And it's a kind of a redneck thing, but it works really well. It isn't very pretty. I usually try to do clean work, but this one I slapped together quickly for a gig, and it works so well I've just left it alone. In order to not pop it all the way out on a D, I put this slide stop on. It uses box Stradivarius trumpet stop nuts for the third slide, a larger rod stock, so I had to machine that down and then thread it. You can see that's smaller. Rubber on both ends so that it doesn't bump. Got the rubber up here and then the rubber on that. And then I can't remember where I got these. I think they're from a King Euphonium 2-valve G bugle first slide. That's where the saddle came from. And as you can see, it works pretty well. There's a little scrape right there. That's the rod, not the slide. That just is something that needs to be messed with. It needs to be done. But I can do this, as you can see, pretty easily without stressing. You know, it's not going to take a lot of physical effort to do that. I generally run with this slide right about there. On F, at the bottom of the staff, it's about here. And then it's various little places between here and there for other things. I usually play E in the staff open, but D 1 and 3 with the slide out where it was. First is too long to play D with it first valve with the slide all the way in, but that could easily be shortened since there's no figurations here. It would be pretty simple to shorten this and bring that in if you wanted to. Second slide general is either between all the way in or a 1/4 inch out. That's where I've got it right now. It just kind of moves around with what's going on in the group. Third slide, I would probably want to cut about a 1/4 inch out of that. It's all right where it is, but I don't like playing with slides all the way in. That makes me uncomfortable. Fourth right there seems to work pretty well. I never have to move it. And the main slide sits right about here at 440 in the group, whether I'm hot or cold. If it's really cold, I will push it in all the way. I don't have trouble keeping it up to pitch. And I've never ever had to have it out beyond here, no matter how hot it is outside. The horn's pretty stable. You'll have to pardon my cat. He wants some attention right now. Like I said, the valves are quick, quiet, and the first slide moves very freely. You can see the lacquer on the horn is pretty chewed up in spots. It has lots of little dings and scratches overall. The lacquer is just piss poor. Eastern European 60s and 70s stuff. It's all foggy. There's something here that looks sort of like fingerprints or something. I don't know what that is, but that's in the lacquer from the factory. And then, of course, it's paper thin, so it has just worn off over the years. It's completely gone on the bottom bow in spots, but the horn is otherwise physically in pretty good shape. Little dings and whoopies here and there. Nothing too big, nothing too bad. Everything works. I had to realign the slide, so it's been taken off and the lacquer's burnt up there. I never bothered to clean it up because I was going to disassemble this thing after delacquering it and redo the whole thing. But as I said, it proved to be a little too small for my job, and I just decided instead of doing all that work, I'd rather unload it for close to what I spent on it. There was a lot of bad damage to the 4th valve slide tube. I used magnets and dent balls to take most of it out, but it's still not real perfect. This was crushed. I had to do a lot of work there. And this is an example of the patina. When you let it tarnish, it turns dark red. I wanted to leave some of that on there so you could see what it would look like. It's got slide or strap hooks. It does not have a lyre stand. Everything on it works well. It plays great. It's a typical Cerveny Piggy in sound. And it comes with a nifty, beautiful black leather Cronkite gig bag. This one right here, you can see. Very nice, very well made. Less than a year old. The only damage to the bag is that I set it on a red painted cement floor, and over the last year it has chewed up that protective strip that covers up the zipper. That's pretty much it. The bag, other than that, looks brand new. The horn fits it perfectly. It's designed for a Cerveny Piggy, and like I said, the dimensions on these changed over the years, but with the smaller bell size, it fits the height and width perfectly. You get it in here. It's hard to do all this one-handed. you can see the horn fits the bag. Let me try that again so you can see. The horn fits in the bag very, very well. You get down here, it just tucks right up in there. If you know Glenn Cronkite's work, you know that this bag was made and padded very well. It's pretty stout. Please forgive my rotten camera work. I'm doing this by myself, and that makes things a little difficult.